Dr. Nelva Lee with the Victorious Podcast. The topic for today is home training from my book, Stay in Fight. Teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. Titus 2:4-5. The modern household consists of two working parents outside of the home, which then translates into the need for two co-housekeepers. That unfortunately is not reality. On average, women do the bulk of housework. Most women would like to get their husbands to help more around the home, but are at a loss as to how to accomplish this. In previous chapters, I have alluded to the need for women to be good homemakers, and that proper training would both help them to be more efficient and effective homemakers. In this chapter of the book, I provide tips of homemaking and will also shed light on how to obtain more wealth from your spouse in this area. So some of the tips for good homemaking are as follows. Number 1, do it now, not later. Here is the most effective way to manage your home. I have heard many women say that it's impossible for them to get any housework done. Yet they have time for watching TV, time for shopping, time for clothes, time for fill in the blank. If having a clean home is a priority, then you will make it a priority. You'll make time for it. Others who are housewives simply need to reprioritize their activities. Some say, well, I would rather spend time with my children. The reality is that your chores need to be done, and the more they pile up, the harder it will be for you to do it and for others to help you do them. So a good solution to this is to do the chores with your children in hand. Okay? Remember that you want to train your children as well to be good homemakers, whether they be boys or girls. Another way to become less procrastinators in the chore department is by taking care of a mess when it happens and not waiting until later. Say, for example, the microwave inadvertently gets splatters in it. It's not a big splatter, right, if you clean it up right away. But the tendency to leave splatters for later time, whether in the microwave or the refrigerator or dishes in the kitchen and clothes in the hamper, leads to a much larger and tougher job later on. And a job that will require much more effort to clean or to do later on. So if you have a chore to-do list, or if you have a thing that needs to be done right away, don't leave it for later. Don't leave it for the weekend. Don't even leave it for tonight. Just get it done. Do it now. Tip number 2, multitask. So let's say that you have to do the laundry and make dinner and dust the furniture. Why don't you just do them all at once? If you do each of these one at a time, it'll simply take up too much time. Okay? It's just too long of a day if you have to do them one by one. You could probably do 2 of these at the same time. All right, so time wasters have to be eliminated, TV and the phone. But if you are going to avoid doing these chores, you're going to end up wasting time. So why don't you do your laundry and the cooking at the same time? It saves time, and you're going to be much more focused, and you'll get it done. The same stands for telephone, right? If you're going to catch up with your family or friends, you can do that while you're dusting your home, or while cooking, or while washing your dishes. So doing the laundry, sweeping or mopping, or the floors obviously can be done while you are on the phone. Same with watching TV. You can just watch some TV, catch up on your latest show while you're actually folding some clothes or making dinner. Okay? I'm a major believer in a family working together. So when you're working together, doing the chores, your children and even your husband, you're going to instill in them the value of hard work, value of responsibility, value of discipline, organization, and cleanliness. And husbands are much more apt to help around the house when they're viewed as a family function rather than a solo function. And not just another job that they get to do when they come home from work. There is something to be said to have an undivided time spent with your children and your spouse, right? But guess what? When you do your chores on a regular basis, you'll have more time. And one area where you do not want to multitask is when you want to spend quality time with your family, your spouse, and your children. So be sure to reserve weekly time for family time, unencumbered by house chores or anything else. Be purposeful about your quality time as you're purposeful about your quantity time. Number 3, have a cooking pattern. For most women, whether they stay at home or work outside of the home, cooking is a chore. Whether or not you are good at it, or even if you love to cook a gourmet meal, the fact is the day-to-day aspect of meal preparation becomes a chore. Thus, you can save yourself time by planning ahead. Several ways to do this is by having a rotating menu plan where you have a total of, say, 14 to 20 different meals that you have combinations and you prepare them in a 2-week or 3-week interval. Okay. Another way to plan your meals is to plan at the as when you're making your grocery list, right? And so you'll know, okay, I'm going to make this particular meal, I'm going to make this particular meal, and this is what groceries I'll need for that. And another helpful meal planning can include thinking about which meals you're making back to back. For example, if we're baking chicken, then I can make a little extra chicken, and the next day I can chop up that chicken and put it in a quiche or a pot pie or some other recipe that needs chicken, and that saves us time as well. Also, every meal that I make sure to put a little bit for leftovers, so my husband or I can take home for lunch to work for lunch. Then his lunch is also ready-made and it doesn't have to eat out as much, right? Of course, that works if you have leftovers. And not everybody loves leftovers. It also doesn't work with some types of leftovers. Obviously, fish and things like that, you don't want to reheat at the office. All right, so plan ahead. Either way, you're being purposeful about your meals and you're taking the confusion out of the equation as to what am I going to make for a meal today. Next, you want to prepare meals that are healthy, nutritious, and a mixture of a variety of nutrients, right? But also easy to make, so you can save time and you can do your gourmet meals on special occasions. If a meal for me takes more than 30 to 45 minutes to prepare, it's put in the gourmet meal category. So take advantage of things that you can defrost easily in the microwave, or if you have if you're going to bake something that doesn't need to be pre-made for a long time, or if you have an air fryer. Okay, so take advantage of the technology that we have today. I like to buy ground turkey for taco and to make for tacos and meatloaves and lasagnas. So really try to keep the frying to a minimum and use those air fryers and that oven for as much as possible with your cooking, and it saves you time because once it goes in there, you can go off and do other things and come back and you have a ready meal in 30 minutes or less. Tip number 4, have a laundry system. All right, women, we complain a lot about our laundry. Okay, but let's be serious. For starters, the quantity of loads and the folding and the amount of time it takes to wash all of those loads, especially if you're doing it on the weekend, it is very time consuming. But if every person in the home does their own laundry and has their own laundry day, guess what? That eliminates all of that hassle and piles of laundry getting built up. Okay, so as obviously you don't want anyone to wash clothes that needs to go to the cleaners, right? But everything else, teach your children very early on I taught mine, as soon as they have a cell phone, they can start doing their laundry. So if that's 8 years old or 10 or 13 years old in your household, you can have a cell phone, you can start doing laundry. And it's really important because you don't want them to learn how to do laundry once they go off to college, do you? So the earlier, the better. So everybody gets their day to do their laundry, and that way you don't have piles and piles of laundry everywhere. So the point is to wash clothes often, so it's not a monumental task. And if you enlist your children to assist you by separating the clothes at laundry time and folding their own clothes and putting their own clothes away, you will find that the laundry issue becomes null and void. And you can even have fun with it. Enjoy teaching your children how to find fun ways to fold their socks, for instance, and you'll find that they will love it. Tip number 5, get help from your husband and children. So I've already talked about all the things that your husband and children can do, right? Housework should be a family affair. Not involving your family is cheating your children from teachable moments, and it's also giving bad habits to your husband, all right? Really and truly, everybody should pitch in to do their part in their home. And it is integral that if you want to develop values of hard work in your children, that you begin early. And the sooner they start doing chores, the easier it is for them. Trust me on that. And you want to teach them the important elements of developing values of hard work and trustworthiness and responsibility. Okay? And that families work together. And this can only be accomplished if you get your household, your husband involved, and your children involved in doing chores. Not only will you guys be a role model that both sexes take part in this, but it really helps them to feel a sense of confidence in themselves as well. Another good thing for spouses to specifically have assigned responsibilities that they have agreed to, all right? And that is also very helpful. However, if your husband doesn't voluntarily begin to assist with home maintenance or yard work and things like that, it really is important to give some tips, some ideas to your husband as to what type of chores that you would like for him to assist you with. Love is envy. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. So don't demand help. Ask in love. And be long-suffering, believing that the best from your husband and your children will come to pass in this area. And let me also say that if your husband really opposes the idea of helping, don't take him for granted. Praise him every chance you get. Even if you have been married for 20 years and it is his job to wash dishes, thank him. Don't take for granted that your husband and your children will help out. Tip number 6, don't expect that you're going to have it difficult. If you follow the old adage, shooting from the stars and being happy with landing on the moon, the same applies here. Make and follow your system. Make a system that works for you. Enlist your children and your spouse, but don't beat yourself up from one day to the next if it doesn't get done. Okay, give yourself some grace. Follow your plan, and eventually it will come together. We have come, we have 2 dogs and 2 boys, and no matter how much I does the next day, it seems to be like I didn't. So we don't have a lot of clutter because everybody has learned to pick up their own clutter. However, I can live with our system because I know that our home is fairly clean, fairly picked up, and if my husband was to just show up with a coworker at the last minute, I don't have to stress myself because I know that I'm not aiming for perfection, but I can relax knowing that things are fairly tidy around the home. So I know that the best time for me to get chores done is if I do it regularly, usually in the mornings, right after my workout or right after my devotion time. Most moms have a best time to clean. Sometimes, or best time to do groceries, or best time to prep dinner. Figure out what works best for you, okay? And if you need to sort it out with your husband, like I said, respect routine, respect the schedule, but set expectations that everybody can be happy with. Also, while the house is usually fairly clean, my home is, I must say that with little ones, it's not entirely clean ever. So be very gracious to yourself if you have toddlers, all right? And again, enlist them early to help around the house, especially if you are a home wife and your husband is off to work. That's a great time, right? 30 minutes before your husband comes home from work to help, to get those kiddos to help tidy up around the home, all right? So therefore, if you have not had this training prior, this is a really good time to sit down with your spouse and come up with a system, come up with a routine that works for you, whether you're a 2 working family or 1 working family. It has to be a routine that works for everyone. And I promise you it'll get done. Tip number 6, declutter. So one reason I mentioned my home is fairly easy to pick up is that we really have very little clutter. I do a major combing through of my home twice a year for things that we can donate to a local charity. And also all year long, we keep a bag in the pantry, and we put shoes and clothes and toys that we no longer use or need. At least 3 or 5 times a year, we are also donating. So not only does this make space in your closet for things that you don't really need or use, but it also teaches your children the importance of giving back to the less fortunate. One man's trash is another man's treasure. Really it is. So they become grateful of the things that they have. Usually right before Christmas, we make a big deal about the toys that we are going to give away so that to make room for new toys. And so it teaches our children charity from a very young age. So home training is a really important step to being stress-free in your home. Thank you for watching this podcast. This is Dr. Lee. Be victorious.